What's up, y'all? Chris Irvin, the ketologist, and in this video I'm going to answer the question of whether or not carbs are essential for exercise performance. So this question, just like many questions in the nutrition space, really requires a lot of nuance to answer. And just like everything else in the nutrition space, a lot of times we like to oversimplify this, and you'll hear in this case a lot of times people saying that carbs are either very essential for athletic performance or exercise performance, or that they're not essential at all. And the answer is that it really depends. So I created this graphic to kind of show what I mean here and to talk about this nuance that comes with this question. So you'll see in this graphic where I distinguish the difference between the average Joe and the elite athlete. And I first want to point out that I'm in no way trying to talk down on who's considered to be the average Joe, because I am an average Joe myself. Because what I'm saying when I say the average Joe is the person who is living a life that is not wrapped around their sports performance or their athletic performance. I'm talking about the person who is not getting paid to perform at an elite level athletically. So, this is really the difference between the person who is a professional athlete and the person who is not a professional athlete. And I think that's a really key thing to distinguish between, because whenever we're answering questions like, are carbs beneficial for sports performance, we need to be thinking about our goals. But not only should we be thinking about our goals, but we should be thinking about the hierarchy of our goals, or how our goals are, what's the priority of their importance in our lives. And then we should also be thinking about, really where our goals kind of fit in with everything else that's going on in our lives. So that's the first thing I want to point out, because when we talk about the average Joe who's not getting paid for, to be optimal athletic performance, who's not being paid to step on a stage and really have to lay it all on the line athletically, then really using carbohydrates for performance, it doesn't make a ton of sense in this case. The benefit that you're going to be getting is going to be marginal. Now, for the person who is, the professional athlete who has to perform at a high level, who, that extra 1% benefit that they can get from incorporating carbs before their workout or before their training or before their competition makes a big difference. It could be the difference between them, winning a championship. It could be the difference between them getting a big payday. It's really about the livelihood of their career. In this case, carbohydrates make sense, right? Because athletic performance really is at the top of their priority list. It's probably their number one goal. I think for a lot of us, it really falls a lot further down the list. I think for the average person who's not a professional athlete, we should be thinking about our overall health, right? We should be thinking about how to, improve our health, how to have longevity. We want to be thinking about those things. And those things, I think, even if athletic performance is on your goal list somewhere, I think those things should be a higher priority. So when you look at it this way, then you can kind of see that, maybe using carbohydrates before a workout isn't really worth it in this situation. Now, the other thing I kind of want to transition this to when we're talking about the average Joe versus the professional athlete is really looking at insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance. So for the person who is looking to lose weight, for instance, and let's say, you're exercising, you're going to the gym and you're doing this to lose weight, having carbohydrates before your workout is probably going to be counterproductive in this case. It's going to cause a blood sugar spike. It's going to be causing insulin to be released. And this is going to be slowing down fat burning during our training session. And if your primary goal is to burn fat and to lose weight, then this really wouldn't be a good thing. And the other thing to take into consideration with this is that for the person who's trying to lose weight, we will assume that you are at least some level of overweight or maybe obese. You have some body fat that you're trying to get rid of. And in these situations, you're insulin resistant, and that means that you don't effectively metabolize carbs. And this is really important, because if you don't effectively metabolize carbs because you're insulin resistant, then what's the point of having them before our workout? They're not really going to be able to give us the energy that we would like them to, because our bodies just simply don't use them very well. So in this situation, it's entirely counterproductive to think about having carbs before the workout. Now, for the elite athlete who, I work with some professional athletes, and, you measure the body fat percentage of these guys and they're under 5%. They are extremely insulin sensitive, not an ounce of body fat on them. They use carbs extremely well, and they can even use high amounts of carbs very well. Their body soaks them up, they use them as energy, and it really does boost their performance. So in these cases, I think that, using carbohydrates can be beneficial for these athletes. But even for the athlete, or even for the really extreme high intensity exercising person, we still have to be able to use those carbs. So for the athlete who may be insulin resistant, who may have a lot of body fat, and this is something that, you know, I've worked with a lot with, say, professional football players who maybe have a little bit higher body fat percentage. If they're insulin resistant, then they can't effectively use those carbs either. So in this case, we wouldn't want them to be having carbs before a workout or before a training session either. And that doesn't mean that those people should never have carbs. It means that we probably first want to restore their insulin sensitivity before having them introduce carbs before their workout or before their exercise performance. So I think those are really key things that we should be pointing out and distinguishing between when looking at this question of, are carbs beneficial for sports performance? And then finally, I think the other question we have to ask, even for the average Joe who, let's say you're not a professional athlete, but you're really, you know, exercise performance is high up on the list for you. It's something that you really want to prioritize. I think the next thing that we have to, you know, kind of ask ourselves is what's the intensity of the exercise that we're doing, right? So, you know, if you're somebody who is doing, you know, a lower intensity exercise, or maybe you're somebody who is an endurance athlete, or somebody who is just resistance training, just going into the gym, you know, you're just picking up some weights and you're lifting, and maybe, you know, you're training at a higher intensity than what you're accustomed to, but you're probably not training at an intensity that really warrants carbohydrate consumption. You know, you're not in the gym for 2-3 hours, you know, or you're not doing high intensity interval training where you are, you know, getting your heart rate up around its max and you're really dipping into glycogen stores or stored carbohydrates. You know, that's something that we need to take into consideration too. Does the activity that you're completing actually require for you to have carbohydrates? So I think that we want to look at that and know that the different types of exercise out there, you know, while some of them may be able to benefit from carbohydrate consumption, there's others that just simply won't benefit from carbohydrate consumption. So whether you're a ketogenic dieter, a low carb dieter, or really following any type of diet, if you have the question, are carbs before your workout beneficial? This is the way that we need to answer this question. And really this kind of highlights the need for personalized nutrition. There really isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to nutrition. There's not one answer to a question like this question of, are carbohydrates beneficial before a workout? You really have to look at it in the context of yourself, your own metabolic health, your goals, and then the hierarchy of your goals. So if you enjoyed this video and this video helped answer this question that's so common in the keto space, please give this video a share. If you have any further questions on this topic, make sure to comment them below. And if you like this type of content and you want to see more of it, then subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks. Let's do a different outro than thanks there. Thanks for listening.